Hello and welcome to Viking.TV with me, Anne Diamond. And this week we're celebrating everything gardening, particularly some of the many beautiful gardens you could visit with Viking. This week we popped along to the Schwetzingen Garden in Germany and the Keukenhof in the Netherlands. But no matter where you are in the world, you will certainly have heard of the Chelsea Flower Show. It is world famous with stunning garden designs, gorgeous floral displays and endless shopping. It is one of the absolute favourites of the Queen, and this year, despite what Buckingham Palace call her mobility issues, she was clearly determined to go along, and she did so in fine style, in a buggy. Now, everyone who is anyone goes to the Chelsea Flower Show. As you walk up and down the pathways, in and out of the tented areas, or inside some of the showpiece gardens, you bump into all sorts of famous faces, movie stars, music icons, and lords and ladies of the realm. But it is also a very serious business for the gardeners who take part. Winning a medal at Chelsea can make your whole career. And so let me now introduce today's guest, who has done just that. He is silver gilt medal winning garden designer, Will Murray. Hello there, Will.
Hi, Anne.
And congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Do you actually get a medal? Have you got something you can show us?
I've got it right here. It's a little card. You can see there.
Ah, yes.
But this is what we get.
Yes.
This is what it's all about.
I know, and money cannot buy that. I mean, that is an amazing achievement, especially because this is your first time at Chelsea, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my first time at Chelsea and my first show garden ever. So bit of a wild one to get my first medal at.
And it's also, we will come on to design, to explain your design much more so, but it was in a new category for Chelsea as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, so this year they had the balcony and container gardens. So they are a new category which sort of shows off smaller gardens, smaller living spaces. Sort of, I suppose, to give a more realistic idea of the gardens that people have now.
I think because we've all been locked down for the last couple of years, on and off in various places, I think most people have actually come to understand that need for an outside space, even if it's only little.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly with my design, it was about making the most of that, whatever space you have. So it's I think people really sort of appreciate the value in that now.
Okay, well, we'll have a look at it in a minute, but tell us first of all how you became a garden designer, because that was largely due to lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those strange series of events that so before I called myself a garden designer, I was a interiors designer, so working for commercial projects like exhibitions and art gallery design, things like that. But a lot of my work was based around events, which obviously over the pandemic was difficult.
Yes.
So that sort of gave me a bit of a nudge to think, well, what are my passions? And I've always been really passionate about gardening. So it was sort of the idea of being a garden designer had bubbled away in my mind for a long time, but I hadn't really had the right time to sort of embrace it. But that it seemed like the right time to do it.
Well, it was very good use of your time, actually. In fact, I went in for an RHS qualification. That's the Royal Horticultural Society. So you actually did go about it the right way, didn't you? In almost an academic way.
Yeah, so I have my background in design, so that bit I was fairly confident on. But the horticulture side of it, although I sort of would say I'm a competent amateur, I did a course which was an online course of the Royal Botanic Garden Edinburgh, an RHS level 2 in horticulture, which really backs up the sort of fundamentals, the sort of science behind growing and behind plants. So that was my furlough activity. So quite a good use of time.
Very good use of time. Did you have an outside space yourself? Did you have a garden then?
Yeah, I've got a really small it's a maisonette garden, so it's sort of a typically small London garden cut in half, so half the size of an already small garden.
Yeah, and you were able at least to spend time out in that, presumably getting practically stuck in as well as what you were learning academically.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a little bit of a shame because the course normally would have involved some practical elements up at the gardens in Edinburgh, which would have been really exciting. But yeah, so it was practicing at home, which was really nice anyway.
Very, very good. And clearly it's worked. But I
Yeah.
know that you were also mentored by somebody else that I interviewed here on Viking TV not so long ago, Paul Hervey Brooks, a very, very well known garden designer himself.
Yeah, so Paul is amazing, and he's done countless Chelsea gardens and Hampton Court gardens. So we're really lucky that with the new categories, they were mentored. So the idea being that it's for new designers that haven't shown at Chelsea before. So having someone with that experience guide us through the process was invaluable. Yeah, amazing.
So, how did you get involved with Viking?
Well, I was very lucky to. It was sort of a funny way of with these that in that I already had a design for the garden that had been accepted by the RHS. So we knew that we needed a sponsor. So I was very lucky that when I approached Viking, they were really keen on the idea around the balcony garden and the supporting new designers. So it came together quite quickly, and I couldn't have asked for any more because Viking have been so supportive and just a dream to work with. So I'm very, very lucky.
And it's funny, isn't it? It's perfect fit in a way because balconies are very much what Viking is about. I mean, every one of the ocean ships, all of the staterooms have their own balcony, and it's a lovely outdoor space in itself.
Exactly, and I was lucky to experience those. So a really great fit, and I think yeah, a perfect partnership.
Yeah, and haven't you done well? Well, let's really see what inspired you and what you eventually came up with. Here is the video that you made with Viking, and it explains it all.
Hi, I'm William Murray, designer of the potting balcony garden sponsored by Viking at RHS Chelsea Flower Show 2022. Balcony gardens are a new category at the flower show. They aim to provide fresh and practical inspiration for gardeners with limited outdoor space, making gardening accessible to more people. I've had a love of gardening from a young age. Some of my fondest memories are of helping my granddad sow seeds in his potting shed and the excitement of waiting for the vegetables to grow on our allotment. This formed the seed of the idea to explore how the hands-on gardening tasks that we enjoy so much can take place in the limited outdoor space of a balcony garden. Based around the functions of a potting shed, the potting balcony garden is a practical place to sow seeds, pot up plants and propagate cuttings. I'm so excited to be creating this new gardening concept for RHS Chelsea Flower Show, and working with Viking was the perfect fit. Viking have a passion for good design, something that's evident in every area on board their ocean ships, which feature an abundance of natural light and natural materials. Just as the potting balcony garden is an outdoor space to enjoy, surrounded by plants and nature, every stateroom on board Viking's ocean ships has its own private veranda to take in the scenery, enjoy the fresh air, and of course, relax. The potting balcony garden also uses smart garden technology with features such as automated watering to help nurture plants ready for the kitchen or to be transferred to an allotment or community garden. In fact, most of the plants are edible. The garden features a selection of herbs, salad crops and even an espaliered apple tree, which is perfect for smaller spaces. As a garden designer, I really enjoy using colour to show the intended character of a space. The potting balcony garden features vibrant yellow tones, and many of the plants have yellow flowers or yellow variegation in their leaves to give a sense of energy and signify that this is a space for activity. I hope you'll enjoy visiting the potting balcony garden sponsored by Viking and be inspired to garden in whatever space you have.
And there we see that your design of a balcony garden. But if you could talk us through the experience of how you designed it, how you came up with it. It's such a little space. And frankly, most of us, if we're lucky enough to have a balcony, we sort of put two chairs and a little table and
Yeah.
a pot, and that's it. But I mean, your whole design is completely different, and it's made something so much of a very, very small space. Where did you start?
Yeah, well, the idea of the potting balcony garden was that it's a space for hands-on gardening, a small space for hands-on gardening. So we don't always have a big garden to work with. We don't always have a potting shed to pot up our plants. So it's really exploring, well, what could you do in that reduced space? So we've got a potting bench to pot up plants. We've got a smart greenhouse where people can grow some salad crops and microgreens. And that idea it came about in the where I live. The wait list for a allotment is 10 years long. So it's a thinking, well, okay, that's not a possibility right now, but what can you do? There's lots of options, but it just sort of needs maybe a bit of creativity to think of where we can start.
Yeah, but you're not just looking at oh, that's a pretty plant, put that there and that'll look nice. You're actually thinking of propagating and keeping a working garden going.
Yeah, it's that idea that I think that maybe people think of a balcony as, like you say, a couple of pots, some chairs, and the idea was that it's an active space. It's a space for doing things. It's not just a relaxation space. And the more it was sort of designed for someone like myself, but the more I thought about it and the more I spoke to people, it's sort of a much more universal concept, because it might be someone's first garden, or it might be a garden that people are downsizing to that's a lot more accessible, but people can still do the gardening jobs, sowing seeds, that they enjoy.
At any stage, did you sort of map out in your own garden or on your living room floor exactly how big it was going to be and what you would have where? Or do you do all that on a computer nowadays?
I do it all on a 3D program on my computer. So, but there was numerous versions and lots of things moving about.
Well, we'll have a look now at some of the amazing colours. You've clearly got something about yellow. I mean, look, you're wearing it yourself now.
Yeah, I thought I'd stay on theme.
Stunning, the use of the colour yellow.
Yeah, so there's a bit of colour theory in the idea of the yellow, because it is quite a striking colour. It really pops. So we had a black background with bright yellow on it. The idea being that yellow is a sort of doing colour. It's an active colour. So it's almost signifying that the space isn't just for sitting and relaxing in. It's a space of activity. It's a space of planting your plants, sowing your seeds.
I mean, and you can just look there at, just because something is a food instead of a flower doesn't mean it isn't actually beautiful to look at, with incredible colour.
So I chose on purpose a lot of variegated plants which have these cool splashes of yellow on them, and then really bright vegetables like the rainbow chard. So it's really striking, and it's completely a decorative space, but it just so happens that most of the things there are edible too.
It's funny because I've always heard that, there you are, that's a lovely one of you with your balcony there, just plonked down there in the middle of the Chelsea Flower Show. But I've always understood that some gardeners are a bit snobby about yellow. They don't like it. They see it as almost the colour of a weed.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of sort of, I'd say, old-fashioned sort of ideas about it, and I quite like challenging those sorts of ideas. And the way I look at it is that there's not, or there shouldn't be, lots of rules about gardening. It should be have fun, and I like yellow, so I make it bright yellow. And in the sense of for the flower show, I think it worked quite well, because it really did pop as people are walking past. Yes. And grab people's attention.
Yes, I love yellow too, and I've never understood this sort of old-fashioned snobbery about it. But clearly, yes, it makes it very vibrant. It really stands out. What did people say?
Oh, I was really blown away with how enthusiastic people were about the garden, how positive they were. People just really loved it. And so from the moment the show opened at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, it was busy, and it didn't die down till the moment it closed. So really amazing reception. I think people really embraced the idea of the edibles on the space. Yes. And people could really imagine living in the space as well. And it was a lot of people said, my sons or my daughters got a similar space, and they were sort of coming up with ideas of what they could do to help.
Yeah, that's an interesting shot there, if we look at that there, because that is taken from the other side. That's as though you're inside the house.
Yeah.
Onto your balcony. I love that.
That's one of the difficulties of designing a a balcony show garden is that you're thinking about visitors viewing it from the side that they wouldn't normally.
Yes, that's right. You've got to be able to walk all around it.
Yeah.
And clearly there was great interest. But the yellow, again, has come out in some of the bits of furniture, if you like, because you have got some stools to sit on and also your table and everything. So you've tried to get that vibrant colour right the way through, even the furniture.
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of, I think, well, for a small space as well, I think it's quite important to stick to a theme. It's not, you don't want mismatch a lot of just random items. So there was a theme that carried on through. So there's the yellow, obviously, and then there's the pattern on the planters, and also there's mesh. So there's a grid on the wall, and then we had a sort of grid planters as well.
Yeah, so even the mundane sort of gardening instruments become decorative, and I love the shovel over the doorway. That's really
that was quite a popular addition. People seem to really enjoy that, and the idea being that we might be growing things on the balcony that we'll take down to the allotment or a community garden. So on the way out, we grab our beans or whatever we've grown, and then we grab our shovel and off we go.
Talk us through some of the plants then in your potting balcony garden. Were there specific ones you decided to include and others that you didn't, just for the look or what?
Yeah, so the sort of key structural plants were espaliered apples, which are almost seen as an old-fashioned way of growing fruit trees. So, but they're really perfect for these sorts of spaces because they don't take up any of the depth. So you can see there. It's a really nice, lovely trained form, and that just means that they're really concentrated in growing the fruit where you want it. And then we had all sorts of other edibles and some flowers, obviously. So the flowers not edible, but really great for getting pollinators up.
Yeah, and as you say, that your little smart greenhouse.
Yeah, so we had microgreens, which are fab to grow. You can grow them on a windowsill as well. You don't need the smart greenhouse. But they're really satisfying because you harvest them really young. Some of them are ready in less than 2 weeks. So great, anyone can try that, and you don't need any garden space at all.
Looks gorgeous. It really does. It's so clever. I know I couldn't ever design something. You've clearly got, obviously you've got the training, but you've got that eye for just making that small space so lively and lovely, and it looks brilliant. Makes me want to try it. I mean, you said lots of people said, "Oh, I've got a son or a daughter who's just." Yeah. I have my eldest son has just got his first really nice balcony in London, and he's been doing things like growing tomatoes, and he would love to see that. He would love to see it. I know we're going to get people asking about, have you done a book? Have you, or will you?
Oh, not yet, but maybe in the future that would be.
I mean, there are some really good tips you've clearly got. Yeah. What are your thoughts on some of the current ideas and trends in garden design? I know that people are trying to get us all to think more about wildlife, sustainability. Did you see much of that yourself?
Yeah, I think a lot of the gardens, certainly this year, have a much more sort of wild look to them. So wildflowers, a little less manicured. I think that it sort of makes sense that we're going in that way because it's good for it's slightly less maintenance, and also it's much better for our pollinators and things. So
yeah, we've got to think of our bees and butterflies as well. What is a typical day for you? Because you've got your company, which we've seen, I think, on the back of your outfit that you were wearing. It will grow. What do you do? What's a typical day for you now?
Well, the company's still really new, so there's not really any typical days at the moment. So obviously the last few months have been very, very Chelsea focused. So I'm sort of finding myself, I've got a bit of time to sleep, and but it really varies. It can be going to people's gardens to talk to them about new spaces they're having, or it can be researching for new designs, and then I do a bit of maintenance as well, so be going to locally to people to help keep their gardens tidy and give them some planting ideas and things like that.
And I gather that you go around by bike as well, because you're very keen to reduce your carbon footprint.
Yeah, so I offer the maintenance side of the business very locally, so when I was starting up, I sort of was looking into vans and things and thought, I probably don't need to have a van, the expense and sitting in traffic. So it works out very well.
So tell us all about what it was like, as you said, when the gates opened and all the people come in. Were they happy to approach you? They usually are, because gardeners are very keen on sharing as well, aren't they? But did you meet anyone interesting?
Yeah, there was. Well, we had quite a lot of famous visitors on press day, so I was very lucky to chat with Dame Judi Dench, who was really
a very keen gardener.
yeah, she was so lovely. She was really excited about the garden and came over to talk about the greenhouse she was really interested in. So yeah, that was really special. And but just people weren't afraid to come up and ask questions at all. So I actually ended up losing my voice towards the end of the show from so much.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. People like to engage, don't they? I know we've got a lovely picture of you meeting Lord and Lady Carnarvon, who are terribly keen gardeners themselves and obviously great friends of Viking. But you also met the Chelsea pensioners.
Yes.
Now, I don't know, there are probably a lot of people watching right now who don't know what a Chelsea pensioner is. Can you explain?
Well, they're the people that live at the Royal Hospital Chelsea, which is where the flower show is, the home of Chelsea Flower Show. So we're sort of taking over their garden for a month.
Yes, you are. Mind you, it's a very big garden.
Yeah, they're really the true celebrities of the show. They're amazing. Yeah, really just really lovely people, and they were so kind to have photos with everyone, and I think that they do enjoy the show.
There's certainly I've met various of them as well in my time, and they're always lovely, and they love to talk, especially talking gardening. But they are usually ex-military men.
Yeah.
I think there are women now there as well, aren't there?
Yeah, there were. Yeah.
Yeah, they're ex-military, and they give up their state pension or their military pension. They give it over to the Royal Hospital in Chelsea in return for a lifelong place to live. And they always go around in those incredible scarlet outfits, and they're an absolute feature, and it must have been lovely to meet them. It looks as though you had a good time.
Yeah, they were really good fun, and yeah, more than happy to have their photo taken, and it is quite touching. You see them in the mornings practicing marching, and yeah, just really incredible, really amazing. And they like a pop of colour as well. So.
Oh, I know, absolutely. Vivid, bright colour, yeah. Talk to us about your experience then sailing with Viking, because you went to Norway?
Yeah, it was fabulous. It was the Viking Shores and Fjords trip. So we started off in Amsterdam and then up a day of sailing and then up through Denmark and then various stops in Norway. So up through the fjords, Oslo, and yeah, just incredible.
Have you ever been on a Viking cruise ship before?
No, I'd never been on any cruise ship before. So I think it was incredibly lucky to go on Viking as my first experience. It was just, out of this world.
I mean, we're seeing the video that we saw earlier then that you made with Viking to explain who you are and why you're working with Viking. And I think you're there. Oh, that's one of the staterooms you're actually working.
It was, yeah. It was, so it was just before Chelsea that we went. So I was actually doing quite a lot of room in my stateroom. Doing quite a lot of work in my stateroom.
Yeah, but it looks wonderful. Beautiful blue sky. Quite an experience, eh?
Yeah, we were really lucky with the weather. We had it pretty good all week, and the fjords. As a designer,
because Viking is very, very proud of its ship's designs.
Yeah,
aren't they outstanding? Some of the features on board have just been so beautifully designed and thought through.
Yeah, for all the Scandinavian touches, you really see that throughout the whole ship, and I really enjoyed all the artwork that's throughout the ship as well. So it's basically like you're on a sailing art gallery. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone with, as I said, a design mind like yours, it must have been quite exciting.
Yeah,
but
really
in all, I mean, as we were saying earlier, a really brilliant relationship for you to have with Viking, and already suddenly so successful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all been a bit of a whirlwind. We only got allocated the garden at the beginning of February, so it's a bit of a crazy few months.
How do you, I mean, what will you do next? Do you think, do you automatically sort of have to keep up your, I don't know, the whole gizmo of it? Do you have to do more flower shows, do more exhibiting?
Yeah, I would certainly like to. I think Chelsea usually works with a few years planning, so maybe not Chelsea next year, but I would certainly love to go back if they'll have me.
I'm sure they will now.
With a bigger spot.
Yeah, no, we've got some questions from our lovely Viking viewers. Eleanor in Hastings says, did you get a chance to look around yourself? Did you pick up any ideas?
I did get a little bit of a chance to get around, but not as much as you might think. So I think, yeah, the planting, the wildflower planting was quite interesting. So I certainly sort of think about that in the future. Yeah. There's so much to see, and I couldn't get around it all. Yeah.
You need to stay there for a week, but if you're exhibiting yourself, you probably don't get very much of a chance at all to look at other people's work. Shirley and Bill in Massachusetts say, will you exhibit again next year, and will it be bigger? Obviously, it was a balcony this time. Will you automatically think big next time?
Yeah, I think that there's a few categories at Chelsea. So there's the sanctuary gardens, which are really lovely, which are the next size up. So maybe one of those in the future, but maybe not next year. Maybe need a break.
Yeah, I mean, how long does it take to come up with a design? If you're thinking, all right, well, I'll try and get into Chelsea 2 years' time. How long does it take to design a garden?
It's really that's quite a tricky question. It really depends on the brief. So probably spend a few weeks working on the initial ideas, but over the course of it, the designs develop an awful lot. So it's sort of it's always a moving process. So the initial idea can be quite fast, but yeah, they do the designs evolve quite a lot during the process.
And I mean, anyone who's ever been knows that you have small spaces such as yours. You can have quite big gardens as well. Is there a pecking order as to what sort of space you might be allocated?
I think so. I think that the gardens on the main avenue are the sort of big, really established designers. So they've done a few, so they'll know what they're doing on that. So I think maybe one of the smaller ones next, and we'll work our way up to one of the main avenue gardens. We'll get there.
Frank from Edinburgh says, did you meet the Queen?
I didn't meet the Queen. I did see her, but she drove past the garden. But I did chat with Prince Edward, which was very lovely. So talking about the garden.
Oh, yeah, because they all go, don't they? Everybody goes.
Yeah, it was quite amazing, really.
It's an amazing day out. It really is, for even for royalty. They love it. Tony and Moira in Los Angeles say, oh, this is the one about the book. Yeah. Have you done a book? Will you plan a book, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't considered it too much yet, but maybe. I think that there's a lot of demand for people to know about these small spaces. So probably a good idea, yeah.
No, I think it would make a brilliant book. Spencer in New York says, are there any particular gardens that have inspired you?
Oh, the one that was particularly for the balcony was my granddad's garden. So that was his was always quite a magical space. So on the balcony, we had a piece of his potting bench as a shelf in the space. So that was a little nod to him, and he's definitely my garden inspiration.
Oh, that's beautiful. I was imagining you were going to talk about one of these incredible royal gardens or something, but it's rather nice that it's Grandad.
Well, I'm lucky where I live, so we live very near Kew Garden, so that's obviously an inspiration. And Wisley as well is. I'm lucky that I live in Twickenham, so we've got a lot of gardens and greenery around us, so there's endless inspiration.
Yes, lots of inspiration from things like that. Do you ever do that? Do you ever see a plant and think, I've never seen that before, and I must try and use it?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, there's so many plants around. Even just walking around the show, the bit that I did get to go around, I see, oh, what's that? What have they used there? I'll have to note that down for next time.
Well, that leads us on to another question, which is quite interesting, I think, because again, a lot of people love gardens, but don't feel that they are gardeners themselves. Ella in Washington State says, I would love to have green fingers, but it seems that I always manage to kill things. Do you think some people just can't do it? And if I were to try again, how could I start?
I suspect that everyone can grow something. I think that I've got a neighbour who says that she kills everything, but I've seen some good houseplants she's kept going. So I think it's don't be afraid to give it a go. Basically, you can start off with something small, work your way up. Don't buy a really expensive plant, and if you're not really too sure what you're doing with it, but just start with something small. Things like herbs and things like that. You can't really go too wrong. Some vegetables are actually really satisfying to grow because you get an end result and it's quite quick. So maybe start there.
Yeah, and mint. Usually you can't kill mint, can you?
Yeah, you absolutely can't. So, and radishes, you can have a radish in a couple of weeks. So maybe
Yes.
start with those.
Norma says, I live in London and I have a balcony rather like yours, but it never gets direct sun. Will I be able to grow things like yours?
You probably wouldn't have many of the edibles, but there's certainly plants you can have, shady loving plants. So things like ferns and hostas, and you could probably even get away with a jasmine in a shady spot. So there will be plants to find. So if you just look for shady plants.
Shady plants, and you should be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's sad if it doesn't get direct sun, but there you are. You have to make the most of it. Susan and Kate in Chippenham in the UK say, I would love to have flowers all year round. Can you plan a balcony so that you have flowers all year round?
You can. It would really depend where you live and sort of your aspect. So if you get much light, but there's certainly plants that do flower in different seasons. So you can plan for that. But also maybe think about plants that are not necessarily flowers, but are just interesting to look at as well. So things with nice foliage, so they're going to fill in the gaps of when things aren't flowering.
I must say that tree that you used, I would never, ever have thought of putting a tree on a balcony, but it works, doesn't it?
Yeah, the espalier trees are perfect for those sort of small spaces, and they work for courtyards and things like that as well. So yeah, maybe think outside the box. There's not really things that won't work, but it does depend on your specific setting and aspect and things like that as well.
Let's have a look at your medal certificate again. You must be so proud.
Yeah, silver gilt. So not too bad. So if people don't know what the gilt bit means, it means it's better than silver, but not quite a gold. So I'm happy with that for my first go.
It sounds brilliant. What are you going to do with it? You need to frame that and put it up on the wall.
Yeah, I'm going to frame it. I've got two, so I might give one to my mum, and then we'll have the other one in a frame somewhere, maybe in the office.
She must be very, very proud. I mean, going into garden design, I don't know what your parents thought when you said you were going to do it, but you've absolutely proved that it's such an interesting business. And it's good for your soul as well, isn't it? Gets you outdoors, and gets you working with plants. And
yeah, well, mum's a very keen gardener, so I think she was very happy, and she was certainly happy to come to Chelsea for a few days. So I think she was very supportive of the choice.
Absolutely. Well, look, it's been brilliant to meet you, and we're also proud of you at Viking because it's as we said, it was a perfect fit, and it really did work too, didn't it?
Yeah, thanks so much. And I just
successful after lockdown brought you into this. I just think that's amazing. So congratulations again.
Thank you very much, and yeah, thanks to Viking again because I couldn't have done it without them. So
and bring out the book because I'll buy one for my son.
Perfect. You'll get the first copy.
Yeah, great. Yes, he wants to do something wonderful with his new balcony. Balconies can be exciting. It just shows, doesn't it? Exactly. So, Will, thank you very, very much indeed. It's been brilliant to meet you, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
You've inspired us all. Now, next week is going to be Culinary Week, and my guest will be somebody who has already written a book. There it is. In fact, this is one of her very latest, Plat du Jour. She is the author and chef Susan Herman Loomis, an American who's an absolute expert on French cuisine. There she is with her leeks. So we look forward to meeting her next week. Until then, do stay safe and well.